It has been a nice year for Europe's distant right, nationalist parties, who are particularly powerful in Centre Europe. Perhaps the largest success the year was Austria's Liberty side, FPO. In comparison with some nationalists ostracized by permissive, centrist parties, the FPO transferred election reached in actual force. It introduced a coalition by the government in the prudent human beings' side, OVS. In neighboring Germany, the big upheaval of the September poll was the successful of Nationalist Option for Germany, AFD, that introduced parliament for the at first period, winner 94 seats. In the Netherlands, Geert Wilders's Liberty side, PVV, came other. In France, Le Pen of the domestic front line, footnote, achieved the work-off for the chairmanship, and was conquered by the permissive Emmanuel Macron. The FPO is not a guest, in comparison with the AFD in Germany. It has been a considerable gamer in Austrian policy for years, but obtained crisp pulse for Europe's immigrant meltdown of 2015 to 2016. Hundreds of thousands of refugees and migrants gone via Austria, and lot attached for refuge there. The FPO's against migrant communication affected a accord in voters, and was as well undertaken up by the Conservative Party by Sebastian Kurz. The new by the government has announced plans to fracture downward on illicit migration and cut benefits for refugees. It has as well incorporated to prioritize the struggle versus policy Islamic. Yet, several Muslim their terror how the entire society is creature aim. FPO lead Heinz Christian Strich, now Austria's defect chancellor, frequently tells side election meetings how Islamic is not portion of Austria. Mr. Strich and Mr. Kurz announced the by the government program on the Kahlenberg Mound external Vienna, wherever the Turkish Muslim intrusion of Europe was stopped in 1683. Mr. Kurz rejected down there was any symbology in the selection of location. But in a live video blog post, Martin Sellner of the High Sound Right Identitarian Motion, vaunted Kahlenberg as a nice sign. Suspended above the FPO is the dark of its history. It was shaped by ex-Nazis in the 1950s. In his youthful Mr. Strich was detained by Deutsche Police Force for take portion in a flare-lit pageant by a prohibited neo-Nazi team, but these days he waste all extremist. He regularly expels or suspends side members who veer to neo-Nazi philosophy. In the largest latter occurrence, a picture was published show an FPO political figure, Andreas Bors, seemingly give her a Nazi welcome. He rejected the accusation, but didn't get up his chair in the top building of Parliament the fall. Policy analysis Thomas Hofer believes the FPO has been powerful in installation allowing order of business, not fair in Austria but in some countries through Europe too much, always with it inflicted and shout in 2000 while it introduced by the government. I believe in, ex-lead, Jaulier Hader they were the big ban breakers at the start of the age. They driven up a lot of issues that were inexpressible behind later, and are now cute main all above Europe. He set the order of business in its migrating issues and its Narodnik color. The FPO's successful has encouraged some Narodnik, nationalist movements, consisting the AFD. The parties interval a broad policy range, but they tap in fears on a thinning of domestic sameness and implacable globalization. The identical day how the Austrian coalition transactions was announced, a quantity of Europe's distant right leaders, consisting Le Pen and Geert Wilders, met in Prague for a meeting of the Europe of Nations and Freedoms Association, posted by Bohemian businessman Tomio Okamura. They vaunted the FPO's successful as a historical win. Austria's new long-wing coalition is as well big news story for the neighboring Bohemian Republic, Hungary, Poland and Slovak, joined in the as-called Visegrad team, wherever against immigrant and nationalist rhetorical has been main. Down there is assumption how Austria may now go nearer to the Visegrad official position, and off of its conventional allies such as Germany. How could reason problems for the Europe Association? While the Austrian coalition transactions was announced, Chancellor Kurz, permanent following to Mr. Strich, often tense how his by the government was pro-European. Mr. Strich told he backed the consolidating of Europe world, but requested the sanctions regime on Russia raised, a mood supported by Ms. Le Pen and Mr. Wilders. The problem cladding the FPO now is if it can convert himself of an against establishment Narodnik motion in a side how can manage. No one of the early coalitions in 2000 and 2003 lasted the complete 5 year. Europe's some distant right movements will be observer close.